Now, according to Kemi Adeosun, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, the Nigerian economy is not structured to meet the demographic needs of the country's economy. And she also insists that the oil model-based economy has failed the country. Bongo Adi, a senior lecturer at the Lagos Business School, joins us now to discuss the problems in Nigeria's economic structure. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you very much.
Quite an interesting statement that the finance minister made recently, that the economy is not looking at the current model is not structured to meet the demographic needs. What is your interpretation of that statement?
Yeah, I think that's a very smart and decisive comment I've heard from any minister in this government for a very long time. What she's saying is actually that the structural transformation of the Nigerian economy is quite deficient. Now, what the economists mean by structural transformation? When an economy is growing, it starts from agriculture, then from agriculture to manufacturing, from manufacturing to service. But in our own case, we have a movement from agriculture, not really through manufacturing, to service sector. Now, there is something about the service sector. Now, service, our economy is dominated by the service sector, and then what it means is that we do not generate enough value added. It is not exportable. Okay, manufacturing is what is exportable. Now, we have an oil-based economy, so our foreign earnings, our income depend largely on flows from the oil sector. So without oil, we do not have any other thing. So there is nothing else that we're exporting as such. Manufacturing still hasn't taken off. And then what we have is a predominant of the service sector, which doesn't really produce enough exportable commodities.
Okay, so if I'm getting you correct, driving agriculture, which is basically labor intensive, the services sector is not labor intensive.
Yes,
so we cannot get the jobs that we want.
We cannot get the jobs that we have. And then again, okay, structural transformation is a process. It has about four scopes. The first one is that you have the declining shares of agriculture in production, in output, and in employment. And the second one is that you have urbanization, the increasing migration of people from the rural countryside to the urban areas. Now, the third one is that the rural-based economy, agricultural-based economy is now replaced by an urban manufacturing-based economy. Now, the third one, which is the demographic transition, I think that's the connection that the minister made, is that we also have, when the economy has gone through this chain, so the last one, the fourth part, is where we have declining birth rates and declining death rates. So that is what economists call demographic transition, so an inflation. Now, in pre-industrial societies, you have a situation where you have very high birth rates, but you also have very high mortality rates. Okay? Now, the second stage is the situation in developing countries like Nigeria, where you have, as a result of improvement in health condition, in sanitation, in food availability, then you have an increase in birth rate, but then a declining death rate. So what it means is that when you look at the population pyramid, which looks at the composition of the population in terms of male, female, age cohort, so you're going to have a population that is swelling at the base. So meaning that you now have a whole lot of people who are going into the job, the job pool, and then people are not dying that much. Okay,
I mean, I suppose that is coming through the current statistic that shows that Nigeria's population growth, we're growing at around 2.7% per annum, way ahead, of course, our current growth rate. But then the finance minister also said that what the country needs is a medium-term strategy that would drive infrastructure development across all sectors. So I'm thinking, is she referring to the documents that the government has already put together, for instance, the medium-term expenditure framework or the economic recovery and growth plan? Is she pointing to an already existing policy that will drive this growth?
Yeah, I think so, because the economic recovery and growth plan is also built on the NTF and then the existing Nigerian integrated infrastructure master plan. So I think it's all together, and then the industrial revolution plan as well. So yes, building infrastructure is one, but it is not all. But I think there is need for what I call a big push effort in manufacturing. Now, infrastructure, of course, is a derived input to production, to the manufacturing sector. So that is good. But then, beyond that, we also have this constraint that manufacturers complain about, which is high interest rates in the system. So if there is no effort to reduce availability of funds, reduce interest rates in the system, then it will not really hit the market.
But those are some of the challenges that continue to persist. Access to credits, power, roads, basic structural deficiencies that still bedevil this sector. So I'm thinking, well, we know what these issues are. So shouldn't the conversation be around what is it that we're doing? Are we monitoring the progress we're making in terms of making these factors available, this very important needs to the manufacturing sector available, so that we can get better numbers in terms of the growth rate of the manufacturing sector from quarter to quarter?
Well, I think that's what it should be. The emphasis should be what's necessary steps, breaking it down into tiny bits, what should be done, and when. We've looked at the budget and implementation. The capital budget has just been has recently been released. So we are already in September. And then very soon the budget cycle is going to start all over again, but we don't even have the budget for 2017 implemented even halfway. So that's actually the bigger part of the problem, implementation of the budget. So it's not just about pointing out the deficiencies in the system, but how do we address these problems?
Okay, we have just 2 minutes left, but I want to get your opinion on this issue. Today, the APC Committee on Restructuring is going to begin a public hearing in about 12 states of the Federation. Issues on the agenda include fiscal federalism and revenue allocation, and also the question on whether or not Nigeria should operate as a region, zones, or the 36-state structure. Now, these are obviously some economic issue that will have implications for the economy. What are your thoughts around this conversation, especially the one around either being a zone or a region or 36 states? Yeah, the restructuring.
I think that's a burning issue in Nigeria that's causing all manner of problems. I think that is the basis of Nigeria's problems at this moment, whether we run as a region or a unitary system and so on. So a whole lot of people have criticized the current way that the system operates. So, and then there is need for that discussion to start at least. So we don't know where it ends, but it's very, very important to really start it at least at this point in time. Okay,
finally, I mean, growth rate this year, we're expecting right now 0.55% for the first time we've come out of Q2. Yeah. So I'm thinking IMF projects 0.08%. What is your projection? Are we looking at 1%? And is this recovery strong enough?
I think this recovery is driven at the back of the stability in oil production and oil prices. So let's look at what is happening in oil. I think it has inched forward a little bit. So I'll based on the fact that the recovery is driven solely by oil and stability in the oil industry in Nigeria currently, so I would think that we will go further. Okay, Bongo, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been a pleasure having you. Bongo Adi, Senior Lecturer at Lagos Business School.